You know those days when you don't feel like yourself? You're not sad, you're not angry, you just feel unmotivated, kind of joyless and going through the motions? Sometimes you're just sitting on the couch, scrolling through your phone, looking for something to make you feel better, and yet you've got no idea why you feel this way. Well, that, my friends, are the blahs, and they can sneak up on you far more often than you realize, stealing precious days of your life without you even noticing. So in today's video, I'm going to show you why we need to become aware of those blahs, and then I'm going to give you the #1 cure that can lift you out of them within minutes. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to get your joy for life moving again. I know, because I get the blahs, and this works for me every time. So let's get started. So let's start with this. Why do the blahs matter? One reason only, because they take away your happiness and disconnect you from your joy. And your joy is who you are as a soul and how your soul expresses itself through you. So when your joy disappears and goes quiet, your whole life experience of life goes quiet with it. Yes, the blahs show up feeling flat or unmotivated, but there's another version of the blahs that most people don't recognize, such as irritation, frustration, and complaining. That's when everything bugs you. The weather, the traffic, the fact that it gets dark early, having to wait in line. These are still the blahs, just wearing a different outfit, but the cause is the same. You've lost connection with your happiness and joy. Now, as a psychotherapist, I can tell you this. You don't have the blahs because you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You have them because there are deeper feelings inside you that you're not looking at yet. So instead of feeling all of that, you just feel blah. But that's for a later video, because today I want to give you the cure, because once you use it, everything else gets lighter. And when you become lighter, then you're more ready to look at those feelings that are going on underneath. So the cure is simple. In fact, you may think it's way too simple, but it's incredibly powerful, and it's called gratitude. Gratitude is always a shift in perspective. It's the moment you pull yourself out of the smallness of a situation and remind yourself of what's still good, what's still here, what hasn't gone wrong. Now, if I asked you what you're grateful for, you might say, oh, I've got a roof over my head, I've got enough money, I'm loved, my children are healthy. And yes, you would mean all of that, but very often, even after saying that, you can still feel blah. So let me help you. Not by being grateful for what you have, but for what you don't have. I'm going to give you an example. I had a patient who needed her thyroid removed, and she was terrified. She'd heard every war story about medications not working afterwards, and it consumed her. That's all she could think about. Now, of course, she was upset. Anyone would be. But she totally lost joy in her life. She felt her body had betrayed her. So every day she woke up with the blahs, and she wanted my help with that. So I needed to find the right direction to go into, so I used this direction and asked her one question. What's one thing that's going right with your body? And she said, well, they don't think I have cancer. And I said, well, that's great news. But what else is going right with your body? And she said, I don't know. I'm having a hard time answering this. What do you mean? And I said, okay, let me ask you this. How are your kidneys functioning? Fine. How about your liver? Fine. Your heart? Oh, really good. Anything wrong with the lungs? No, they're good. Are you blind? Whoa, she seemed a little surprised by that one and said, no. And I said, well, can you hear and taste and smell? Yes. How about this? Can you swallow? Mm-hmm. Well, now here comes the really important one. Can you poop or do you need a colostomy bag? And she laughed and said, yes, I can poop. I said, how are your vocal cords? Can you speak? Yeah. How are your legs? Can you walk pretty well? Yeah. And I could see her mood just slightly stirring. And then I asked, well, would you say that your body's doing a pretty good job of keeping you strong and healthy everywhere else? And she said, I never thought of it like that. And I can't believe it, but I'm feeling a little bit better. Because you see, her entire mood shifted. She remembered the bigger picture, that her body was still alive, still functioning, and still fighting for her. That's gratitude. It brings the light back into the room and back into you. Now let's bring this closer to everyday life, because the blahs don't show up in big, overwhelming moments. We know that. They show up in the small irritations and the complaints that we don't even realize are stealing our joy. So this came to mind when I was writing this script. I remember quite a few years ago, I was miserable thinking about having to take a 10-hour trip back home. And I dreaded everything about it. And I had a list of about 5 things to be miserable about. And then the oddest question popped into my mind. And it was this: well, Connie, would you rather take that 10-hour trip or have no hands? What? Where did that thought come from? I had no idea, but I remember thinking, oh my God, what would I do without my hands? That would be horrible. I use my hands for everything. Play the piano, to touch loved ones and pet my dog, to pick up stuff, wash my face, open a car door. I mean, the list was endless. So when I answered the question of which would you rather do, take a 10-hour trip or have no hands? Well, it was a no-brainer. And I started to laugh because at that moment, I felt so grateful for having my hands that the trip was the last bothersome thing on my mind. That's what real gratitude does. It doesn't erase the situation. It just puts it back in proportion and in perspective. So you can be grateful for what you don't have, as well as being grateful for what you do have. Now, I also learned something from Esther Hicks called going on a rampage of appreciation. And it's one of the fastest ways to lift yourself out of the blahs. You just start naming off the many things as you can that you're grateful for in your life, and you include the things you rarely think about. So the other day I was feeling a bit cranky and tired and decided to go on a rampage of appreciation, and I wrote down whatever came to my mind. So I asked myself, what are you grateful for right now? And here's what came out of my mouth in 20 seconds. Medication, antibiotics, cars, electricity, trees, bees, oxygen, sunshine, rain, my tongue, blankets, shoes, water, music, birds, surgeons, pets, swimming pools, scissors, and toilet paper. Now, can you imagine your life without any of them in it? No medicine, no electricity, no water, no shoes, no toilet paper? I mean, the list could go on forever. And at that moment, everything inside me changed. I felt joyous again, just like that, because I said, oh my God, I have all of that and more. What am I cranky about? I've got nothing to be cranky about. And here's the beauty of it all. By the time you go on a rampage of appreciation, you realize that once you start, you can't stop. And you don't want to stop because it feels really, really good. Now, I will admit, I do have one more ace in the hole. When I'm feeling really down and I want to feel the best that I can feel, I bring out the big gun. I bring out my hero, Christopher Reeve. Here's a man whose life changed in an instant when he fell from his horse. He was paralyzed from the waist down and couldn't breathe on his own. He had a 3-year-old son, recently married, and admitted that he wanted to die, until his wife bent down and whispered in his ear, "But you're still you." And he said that those 3 words saved his life. Now here's a man who taught his son to ride while being in a wheelchair. He spoke at the Oscars. He started foundations. He gave love. He received love. And he not only found a way to love life from a wheelchair, he loved life even when he couldn't feel anything from the waist down. That, my friends, is a superman. So whenever I have the blahs or have the need to complain about something, I simply ask myself this: would you rather unload the dishwasher or be Christopher Reeve? And even if it was something big like facing an operation, I would still ask the same question. Well, would you rather be having a knee replacement or be Christopher Reeve? And the answer is always the same. Thank you, Christopher Reeve. So here's what I would love for you to remember. The blahs are not a sign that something's wrong with you or something's wrong with your life. They're simply moments when you've disconnected from what's still good, still working, still loving you, and still supporting you. And the truth is, your joy is not something that's going to magically appear. It's always been there, waiting for you to return to it. And gratitude is what always gets you there. Because real gratitude is remembering the miracles that live inside every single ordinary day. And when you practice it, even for 30 seconds, you do feel lighter. Your life feels lighter. Not perfect, but lighter. And lighter is enough to move you out of the blahs and back into you feeling alive again. So the next time you feel off or flat or irritable or like nothing is bringing you joy, pause and reach for gratitude for what you have and for the things that could be wrong but aren't. Use your hands like I do as your reminder, or use your breath. I can still breathe. Use your eyesight. I can still see. Use the simple things that you would miss if they were gone. And if all else fails, call on Christopher Reeve. He always brings the truth back into focus. You are here, you are alive, and you are loved. And that is more than enough to bring the light back in so that you can feel the joy of who you really are once more. And that's what life is really all about, my friends. Let nothing interfere with your happiness, because your happiness is your soul rejoicing in its existence in this one precious day you've been given. So let yourself notice the smallest blessings. Whisper a quiet thank you for being here, and let gratitude be the way you come home to yourself again and again. If this spoke to your heart today, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need a little light, because we lift the world together one grateful moment at a time, and we grow our community together one heart and one soul at a time. So if you like this video, you might like Heal Regret, where I explain that you can stop punishing yourself and turn regret into wisdom. Until next time, dear ones, remember that there really is no one worth knowing more than you.